Hey there, welcome to this episode, and today we are looking at the pads and the settings that we have available to us. Now the first one is the obvious one, shift and pad number 1 for fixed velocity. We can turn it on or turn it off, and if you're unfamiliar with that, as this is kind of, designed for beginners as well, the velocity, if you have velocity enabled, it means that when you hit your pads, the harder you hit the pad, the louder the sound is. With fixed velocity enabled, it essentially means that they always play at kind of like their maximum volume. So just some very basics there. If you have velocity enabled, so you've got some variation here, which is quite nice. You have some options available to play around with, like the curve and the sensitivity and stuff like that. And we can do that by doing shift and pad 15 here, where we can see pad settings. You can also access it via the utility menu, but it's quicker to do it this way. Opens you straight up into pad mode here, and we can use Control 3 to scroll through the tabs at the top. So we've got a few options here. You can mess around with pad colors if you want, change things. Maybe you're trying to be organized with a project or something. You can do the same with like our bus colors and things when we get into effects. LED in terms of the brightness, how bright you want these, the glow, pad mode. There's a bunch of things that you can play around with. I'm not going to go into every single one of these. Trigger is where you can adjust your velocity curves and your sensitivity for your pads. And again, I don't really have a recommended here. I quite like fixed velocity a lot of the time when I'm working. But if you want to play around in here, use your push and enter button to scroll through the various options and press enter when you want to change one of the parameters. And you can see as I scroll through, you've got a lot of options in here, including fixed inside of this mode as well. Changing like your threshold and your gain and stuff, it's all to do with the sensitivity. And trigger span I will mention a little bit, only because if you're having a problem where you're hitting pads and it's kind of double triggering, trigger span is usually the one that you want to come in and just adjust a little bit to try and stop it from double triggering. But that can depend on a few factors. It can depend on the kind of table that you've got your device sitting on. Apparently vibrations kind of kick off some of these double triggering. So if you've got it sat on something softer, the trigger span adjustment or whatever it is might depend on the surface that you're kind of playing on. So keep that in mind. But that is essentially the pads. Not a lot to say about them. They are nice and sensitive. You can get some really nice like finger drumming going on these. I really like them. We can exit out of this mode, but yeah, I just wanted to touch very quickly on the pads and how to adjust the velocity, sensitivity, things like that. Take care. I'll see you guys in the next episode.